All right. Everyone hear me okay? Awesome. Welcome to the third annual Digital Scholarship Symposium. Over the past 3 years, we've grown our panels, our audience has grown, and we're really excited that the quality of our presentations has really remained just as strong. So we have an excellent panel of sessions lined up for you today, including some new lightning talk session after this panel. I'm going to introduce myself real quick. I'm Olivia Weichel. I'm the head of Digital Scholarship and Initiatives here at Iowa State University Library. I wanted to thank you all for being here and helping to make this a space of connection and learning. And I hope you leave having learned something new today and made a new friend. So welcome. I'm going to turn it over to Nikki White now to kick off our first panel on public digital arts and humanities.
Thank you, Olivia, and welcome everyone. Thank you for being here today. Thank you to our panelists for sharing their work, and thank you to the ISU Catalyst for hosting us this morning. Our first panel is the Public Digital Arts and Humanities, Community Impact Through Digital Projects. We are joined by 5 panelists who will be presenting on a variety of digital projects that connect research with public audiences, amplify community stories, and foster collaborative knowledge creation. There will be time at the end of the presentations for Q&A, so please hold any questions until after everyone has given their piece. First up, we have Bambi Yost of Iowa State University. Bambi Yost is Associate Professor of Landscape Architecture at Iowa State University. She holds 2 master's degrees from the University of Colorado, Denver, Landscape Architecture and Urban and Regional Planning. She specializes in children's play and environments, benefits of risk-taking, environmental psychology, pedagogy, regenerative design, outdoor learning environments, and community design. She will be presenting on lessons learned while building community across state lines. Take it away, Van.
Now I got it. I wasn't sure if it was passed on me on or not. Anyway, I'm going to fly through a whole bunch of slides. I have way more slides than I need, so bear with me. Abstracts in there. I do this so that if anyone wants to see it later, they can come back and get more information. Quick background is I worked for 5 years with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, so that's a group that I worked with from ISU in Virginia a few years ago in 2019, and I'll cover a little bit about that. I also worked with Lois Brink on the Learning Landscapes in Denver, Colorado, and we produced a lot of different schoolyard areas, essentially, as a combined team. I worked on 58 of those, 96 that we built. These are the schools I've worked with in Philadelphia since coming to ISU. I do not recommend that anyone just start off with 6 schools in a separate state, so I will start with that as a quick, obvious statement. These schools were handpicked because we had a really good coalition in Mount Airy for the first 6 schools, and they're near Germantown, which is just North Philly. And so there's some wealth in that area, and there's also a lot of poverty. So we were working with that group initially, and then I went and worked with groups down in South Philly. This is the year that almost killed me, 2017. So things not to do not work, even though it's in the same state. And you're like, oh, Pennsylvania, I can go to Scranton from Philly. Don't do that to yourself. I was going back and forth between Earlham, Iowa, and 2 places in Pennsylvania that were far away from one another, basically, right? So Philadelphia to Scranton. It was horrible. I do not recommend it. I did a lot of digital interaction with everybody as well, but unfortunately, the church did not have any kind of digital anything, so that was really challenging. Multidisciplinary teams are fabulous, so if you ever get the opportunity to work with our College of Design in the option studios in particular, we have multidisciplinary option studios where we have architects, landscape architects, interior design, any of the students that want to join. This year we've also got engineering, industrial design, and graphic design partnering more with some of our other more traditional built environment disciplines. And I will say Virginia Beach School District, again, highly advanced, collaborating really well already with Chesapeake Bay Foundation. So I'm looking for established partnerships essentially whenever I go in places. And these guys had just recently completed the Brock Environmental Center, which is not only a LEED certified building, but it's also a living building. So they are keeping ongoing energy audits of the whole thing, and it's fabulous. I always do in-person design charrettes with my students and with community at some point during the semester, but we can only afford to go there once as a group. And so I go back and forth on my dime typically. Some of the best practices, this is probably the money slide right here. You know, make sure you have enough money, resources, the ability to say no when needed. Establish some strong relationships. If you don't already have them, ask other people who they know. And you want to really start thinking about not just lateral connections, but also hierarchical connections and, you know, things, groups that are larger than you, right? Not just grassroots, essentially. Managing expectations is probably the biggest thing that I have to do as a faculty member who takes students out to meet with community members and produce a product. And so that is true for expectations for the students as well as expectations for our communities we work with. And that's probably one of the hardest things, but the best thing you can do is give them examples of what you will provide as products. And it doesn't mean you're gonna have exactly the same thing, but it'll be coming close. Trust in your collaborators is probably one of the #1 things to do, because I think the way these things fall apart typically is you don't have enough trust and assurance that everyone's gonna do what they say they're gonna do, right? And if you say you're gonna do something, you gotta follow through. Tools and technology. I have tried almost everything under the sun. I will say Zoom is my favorite, as well as Vimeo. Facebook was really great for a while with most of the schools in Philly, because almost all of them had like a home page on Facebook where they shared resources regularly. I also got into their regular newsletters that would go out and things along those lines as well. When our projects finish, we give them hard copy booklets of everything we produce, as well as flash drives, so they get all the digital everything, and that way they can use it towards funding. This is getting at the example of top-down, bottom-up, and also lateral moves, and thinking about how you can start to really network. And basically, I choose schools that are near one another, so they network with one another too, and they think about sharing resources, not just competing. Organization is key and almost impossible. So it's constantly changing. And that's another one of those managing expectations, making sure everyone knows that things are going to go awry. I like this project in particular. I'll show you a quick video, or part of it, where I have my students introduce themselves to the community members out of state before they even get there. And so they create their own fun videos. We work with existing organizations like the New Hampshire Stormwater Center to help calculate technical stuff that my students don't necessarily all know how to do. And we always have these community engagement group meetings, you know, where we're meeting with all of the students, faculty, facility managers, community members, neighbors, you name it. This is an example of using a Facebook poster, essentially, to get feedback. Research methodology. I know everybody in research wants everything to be consistent, so you can always have exactly the same stuff and compare it longitudinally. We don't care. We want to give them a good product. This is a very pragmatic approach. I do whatever I can do to make sure we get a good product out of this in the end, and it really depends on the community. Kids' drawings are fabulous, but you do need help translating them, right? So it takes a little more time than you might think, trying to figure out what some of them mean. This is one of our standardized tools that we've used, which is a photo survey board. The year I worked in South Philly, I had 14 different languages that this was translated into. Some of my students were Indonesian, were able to translate. I also had students at the schools themselves translate for me. And then we tally. So we do have some stuff that's a little bit more standardized, but not a ton. And then we give them the feedback, right, so that they know which groups wanted what and why. We also help produce these images and graphics that win awards, but are more importantly things that they can use to go after funding and showcase examples of what they might want to see. And these things are all created with various tools: Photoshop, PowerPoint, Photoshop, AutoCAD, InDesign, Illustrator, Rhino, and SketchUp predominantly. I'll just run through quick 2 case studies. I'm not going to give 3. This is a typical Philadelphia school and what their playground looks like. So it's usually a sea of asphalt, and they clearly need better play environments. Again, we did the survey tool, figure out what the kids wanted. Always want trees, right? We talk to the kids, and then we give ideas and feedback. I go back and forth multiple times during the semester, and I meet with the community, and I'll sometimes do those as community share Zoom sessions as well, so that kids can actually see the progress we're making. So this is a final video from this team, not super long, and I'll just show you part of it. Girard's elementary school was actually designed prior to us, so we had an existing master plan to work off of. It's a heavily integrated music school, and so the theme was really focused on music. And so it's a lot of visualization tools and techniques. And they get to have these in addition then to the printed, it's a big fat master plan document that they get that includes a budget, has vision, mission statement, things that they gathered from all the community members, that they were looking for. These guys also really wanted some good outdoor gardening spaces, and they had a small one already started. So all of the schools are very unique and different depending on the specific needs of that school. So it's not a one-shop-fits-all. So anyway, I'm gonna stop that one because you can find me online. Kirkbride was a similar process where we did the same things. Kirkbride has a rooftop garden or rooftop play area that had not been fully taken advantage of yet because they were still looking for funding, but it was originally intended to be a play area for kids when it was built. And I'll show you theirs really quickly. I'll zip ahead here because you're going to talk to us. We don't need you talking to us yet. But these are a little dated at this point, 2016 and 17. We were able to get a lot of the play equipment that you see in here directly from Landscape Structures. Stephen King is an alum of our program, and he and his designers have been incredibly helpful in terms of sharing knowledge and information with my students over time and how they can go about facilitating and making these playgrounds become a reality. This school does now have play equipment in what was formerly a parking area. So they've already started their fundraising and they've gotten this thing underway. And I have, at this point, I think 8 partial builds in Philly. So that's pretty good out of the 14 schools that I've worked with there total. So I will just very briefly jump out of this and show you the 8,000 open tabs on my laptop. The easiest way to find stuff is to look for me on Vimeo. You can find all kinds of videos for all of my school projects on Vimeo. I make almost everything public, including our meetings, with experts that we're meeting with on a regular basis. Here's the experts list comes in here. And they will do multiple iterations of presenting back out to the public in different formats on an ongoing basis. So I wanted to show you one last fun one, because this one's goofy as all get out. And it's an introductory one.
One of my favorite animals is a kurama.
Are these the ones? Oh no, they're not the ones I wanted. Oh well. Bummer. Tanner, you're not the one I wanted. Sorry, man. Anyway, it's not important. But they do these fun introductions, and one of the groups is really, really off the wall charts. Funny. The Chesapeake Bay Foundation project's also available on here, and you can see them actually meeting with the science teacher and students as well online. So all of this is on my Vimeo site. So thanks.
Thank you. Next up, we have Kevin Kane. Kevin Kane is Director Emeritus of the GIS Research Facility at Iowa State University. His research has focused on geographic information systems, natural resources, history, design research, and higher education. He is now working on the Campus Cornerstones project within Digital Scholarship and Initiatives at the Iowa State University Library. His presentation will be on Campus Cornerstones, a mapped history of Iowa State University.
Thank you for the help there. I was getting very nervous. We'll get started back where we were. Okay. My name is Kevin Kane, as I was introduced, and as soon as I shake off the anxiety from this not working, our project is called Campus Cornerstones, and this is a project that began many years ago. As a faculty member, I was going into more administrative duties. Each summer, I promised myself that I would go back and rework on my tool set, my skill set for GIS, which always went downhill a little bit more each year. So as I was approaching retirement, I also decided in order to do this, it would be great to do it with an open source piece of software. We use ArcGIS here on campus, and as many of you may know, it's a piece of software that is not cheap. It's very reliable, and many people use it. But once you leave an institution that takes care of that, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So I'm working with QGIS, which is an open source GIS program. And this is the overview, which I want to just go through, run the project through. From that beginning, it was obvious that I had a great GIS project on my desk, and if I have time, I can show you what that looks like. We put in many maps of Iowa State University, and we're able to overlay them, digitize them. A lot of research, a lot of new things were coming up that we were discovering. Where buildings sat in comparison to other buildings, where the dinky ran through the campus. The dinky is a railroad that went from campus town into downtown into campus. So we were putting all these things together, but I couldn't get them shared with anyone. The Iowa State Library learned of my project, and we decided to team up, and that's how this community participation, this website started to be developed, is through their help. And it would have been sitting on my computer, just me and my lonely self doing my mapping and my photography if it wasn't for the library. As I said, the background is taking maps, putting it into a GIS system. Once that was done, it just seemed like a natural step to add photographs of these buildings that I was mapping on campus. So that was the next step. I had some criteria for my own research. One was to use the Day book. There's Summerfield Day wrote a synopsis of campus architecture in 1980. It is the go-to book still, even though it's from 1980, to find out about these buildings, where they were built, when they were built, when they were destroyed, how they were destroyed, where the money came from, especially the older buildings. So that has been the backbone of the research. As I said, we wanted to use QGIS, an open source piece of GIS software. When I was doing this alone before the library came along in collaboration, was just looking at what can I find on the internet? What are the sources on the internet that I can find very easily for building photographs and maps? Those were the two things I was most interested in. I did a little video. The library asked me to put together a proposal. I did that. That's sitting out on YouTube someplace from 2016, 2017, in that area. Actually, no, I think it was a little later because I did it when we were all home during the COVID epidemic. We got together with the library. Aaron Ridnour, who's sitting at the back of the room, has been my primary collaborator on this project. And we've put together this Campus Cornerstones website, which we'll go through here in a second. Just quick goals: integrating those data sets that I've talked about, visualizing them in both maps and photographs along a timeline, establishing as we go a methodology to do this so that other people could try and do some of the same things that we're trying to do here. And then, as I said, the community accessibility was a huge part that I would never have been able to do without the library's help. The site is built with Collection Builder. That's Aaron's expertise putting the website together. While Al-Haj from the GIS facility is helping her with some of the GIS leaflet pieces as well. So we've got a team here that we put together, Collection Builder and the leaflet program that converts the GIS into something that you can use on a website. This is our project team, besides myself and Aaron. Mary Witkowski. I don't know if Mary's here this morning or not. Okay. Mary and Michaela Beck are two student workers that help collect photographs, collect maps, update the database, do all those kind of things behind the scenes. And then, as I said, Weil has helped us with some of the GIS mapping for the internet. Okay, I'm going to switch really quickly to the site itself. Okay, I'm actually going to sit down so I can run this show here. Okay, this is the actual website. It's live. It's available if you want to look at it anytime. The homepage has an 1870s photo of campus.
They can't see it.
Oh, they can't see.
Yeah, so now go to escape for a second.
Wait, they can't see what?
That is the same screen.
No, no, it's not. This is the website.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Sorry, it's the same photo. This is an 1870s photo of campus taken from about where the Knoll is, looking back on campus. South Hall, I don't know if you can see my, and I don't think you can see my pointer either. South Hall is the old president's house, which is here. Old Main, which is here. The president's privy. Chemical laboratory, the workshop, and this is the house that is sitting where Music Hall sits right now on that knoll. That's been many things for campus. It was torn down in the late 1970s. So that's one of the earliest photos of campus. On the front page, then, we also have an integrated GIS web map in which you can see things like, this is the 1898 day map, which is the black buildings. Oh, that's not working. Well, okay. So I'm looking at a little bit different thing here. The black buildings are from the 1898 day map, and then we've got points for each of the buildings, which from the home page, you can click on one. Yeah, you're not getting any of my extra windows that are popping up here. Let's see if we can. I wonder if. Okay. This is what happens when you try and get too fancy with your presentations. So these are what I was speaking of. The map is integrated into the website. You can click on these bubbles. It will give you the building name and a little thumbnail can click on the thumbnail and it goes right to the building description, a key photo of the building. This happens to be the second creamery that was on campus that sits where East Hall sits right now. And then a map that also has some aerial photography. You can switch that to a street map if you'd like to. You can turn off the historic buildings if you'd like to. So it gives you a little piece of GIS that you can work with on each one of these. Maps, you can have bigger maps that do a little bit more, that show a little bit more from the data sets. We also have in the historical maps a browser where you can browse through maps and look at them outside of the GIS system if you'd like to do that, and zoom in and out and move those around. I'll zoom through here as fast as I can. We have a buildings browser, so you can browse through the buildings. If you go to the hub will show, again, the description, a picture, a map, of a larger map where it sits on campus. You can zoom in and out on that. And then it's also got a film strip on the bottom where you can go to each one of these individual photos of each building. There is a timeline which allows you to go through the website in a chronological order as buildings were built. And you can use that through going through buildings one by one. And then if you click on that, it will go to the description of that building. You can use the timeline here and actually go through the year by year timeline. Click on something, Sloss House comes up at the top. You get that again, and then the entire photo collection timeline, which is on the bottom. I'm sorry. Right now, what we have on here, we're working from the start of the university, around 1860 to 1900. So those are the buildings that are on right now. There's about 55 buildings that were on campus from that time period in those 25 years. After that, the university starts to explode as far as buildings go. And so we may start adding 10 years at a time beyond that. As you can see, there's still some room for getting more photos for every building. We don't have photos for every 1875 to 1900 building yet. We're still looking for those. We're having those digitized. We're working with special collections. They're helping us identify these buildings, find where they are, get them digitized, also the maps as well. So you can see the project is ongoing. You can download the data set that's behind the data. And so all of that is part of our website. So in conclusion, thanks for your patience. That's what the website looks like. I'm really happy that we were able to get it together to show it to you. And I'll be happy to answer questions later. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Caitlin Patton and Allison Raniger Van Zanti. Caitlin Patton is the Museum Security and Education Program Assistant for University Museums at Iowa State University, serving the Christian Peterson Art Museum, Art on Campus Collection, and Anderson Sculpture Garden. She leads curriculum-based engagements across multiple academic departments and contributes to the development of online educational resources and digital publications that support the museum's collections. She holds a BA in Art and Ancient Civilizations with a Museum Studies certificate from the University of Iowa. Allison Raniger Van Zanti is the curator of the Christian Peterson Art Museum at Iowa State University. She holds a BA from Central College in Pella, Iowa, and a master's in Arts and Culture, specializing in art and specializing in art history and theory from Leiden University in the Netherlands. Her professional focus includes exhibitions that address historical and contemporary cultural narratives, with an emphasis on the Christian Peterson Art Collection and the University Museum's Public Art Collection. They will be presenting on Beyond the Museum Walls, University Museums, and Public Digital Scholarship.
All right, thank you. So hello, everybody. Some of you may have seen me around if you've ever done a public art tour or seen me walking around with a bunch of students. But today we are not going to be talking about the tours and a lot of the, front-facing programs that you probably associate with museums. Instead, we're going to be talking about all of our digital scholarship work. This will be across a variety of platforms, and so we'll cover all of that. But yeah, let's feel free to get started. So for any of you who don't know what University Museums is and what it entails, this is just a very basic overview. We have several different entities that encompass university museums on campus. So there's the Bernier Art Museum over in the Sheeman building over near the Coliseum. There's the Farmhouse Museum, which we actually could have seen on the map earlier since it is the oldest building on campus. The Art on Campus collection, which is all of the public art across the entire ISU campus. The Christian Peterson Art Museum, which is actually right near over here in Morrill Hall, which is where we walked here this morning. And the Anderson Sculpture Garden, which is right outside Morrill Hall, sort of in between it and the hub. So the goals of university museums drive everything that we do. Quick overview, our goals are to collect, preserve, and interpret objects of aesthetic and cultural value, exhibit and disseminate knowledge of museums and borrowed collections through a variety of programs that stimulate and challenge all audiences, create vital partnerships with Iowa State University to enhance higher education by exploring creative interactions in arts, sciences, and technology, and to create public partnerships to foster integration of the arts and cultural heritage as a central part of people's lives. So what all this means is that this is our, driving mission for a lot of our digital scholarship. And this will mean that a lot of our digital scholarship is focused on being accessible to people, both to our university audiences, so faculty, students, researchers, but also people beyond ISU's walls. And it also focuses on connecting all of our collections and, sort of integrating this both inside the classroom and outside. So the main way that we disseminate a lot of our knowledge is through PubPub. So what PubPub is it's an open source, community-led end-to-end publishing platform. So this was developed as a product of Knowledge Futures. They are currently a nonprofit. They were previously developed at MIT through their media and digital technology labs. And it is developed with collaborative editing for instant publishing. So what that means is that you can have multiple authors of a pub. We'll talk about what the pub is here in a second. And it is also focused on being able to develop and update a lot of those publications. And what that means for us is that it's not just us, the staff, who are able to contribute, edit, and adjust a lot of this information, but it is also our student workers. We've had students who publish essays on PubPub, publish their research, are able to update some of our entries. And this is a big part of what we try to do with a lot of our internships and our Pullman fellowships, where we try to get students that hands-on experience and getting them connected to the knowledge and to the collections that they handle in their day-to-day work. So some examples of some of the stuff that we have on PubPub is we will often highlight exhibitions, things that are in our collection on display at the moment. So sometimes this will be things like the labels in an exhibition. If you were like, oh, I went to the museum and I saw this cool thing, but I don't remember what the label said because I didn't take a picture of it. Well, if you go on PubPub and you go to, say, Artists of an Era, that was the exhibition that you saw. You click that, it'll bring up a whole list of entries, usually sorted by, what the object is. Sometimes they're sorted by category, like if there are, thematic groups in an exhibition. You just click on that, and then all of that information will be there for you. So we have that as a major feature. A lot of our different exhibitions throughout the years are still up on here. So if you ever wanted to spend an afternoon just looking through old exhibitions exhibition highlights, you can still do that. We also have our entire Art on Campus poetry collection published on there. Some of you might not know that in addition to the public art that you see on campus, we also have poetry that's been commissioned to pair with that art. So a lot of these are poets who've been the Poet Laureate of Iowa. Even the current Poet Laureate, Vince Gutierrez, has created and published work for us. And so you can find all of that on PubPub. It's organized by the artwork. So if you're like, oh, I really like, the Breaking the Prairie Sod mural here in the library, I want to read all the poems that are associated with that. You just click the artwork under, the big category that it's associated with, and then you can read all the poems, and they have, the author credited. There's even a list of poet biographies that are under Art on Campus poetry, so you can read about all of the poets, maybe find one that you particularly like, and learn all about that. And so this is basically just a picture of what the main page of PubPub looks like. When you go to university museums, you go to our digital publications, this is what's going to pop up for you here. And then this is what it looks like when you are in the editing bay on PubPub. So basically, here you have the title, you can add a description for the pubs, and here you have edit pub contributors. So this is what I mean when I say, it's developed for collaborative editing. So for this one, if I wanted to put myself as a contributor, I could put in my name, but say, we had an intern who helped, with a lot of the organizing for this, I could add her name. And then, if you really wanted to get in depth with it, you could add lots of different names for that. You have when the draft was last updated. So, obviously drafts can get continually updated. And you also see published version, view latest release. So when you're editing a pub, it doesn't automatically publish it whenever you make an edit. It just sort of keeps it in the editing bay, and you have to officially publish or create a new release to have it be updated on the website. So again, here I'm in the editing bay, so I can see what it currently looks like, with my latest updates. But if I were to say, be a random person who just goes to PubPub, this would not look like this. It would just be whatever the latest published version is. And so that's what I mean when I say you can be continually updating things. So if you have maybe a piece of outdated information, or maybe an editing error, or even you just want to add to a pub, this allows you to have that, latest updates on pubs. And here you can sort of see what the actual text editing and, major body of the, pub is editing look like. And you also see up here that you can add tags to the pubs. So that's another way that you can search for information is you're like, I only want to see stuff that's related to the poetry. So you click the tag, it'll pop up all the pubs or little, hubs of information that are related to that. We have lots of different tags. Again, some of them are affiliated with an exhibition. Some of them are affiliated with an artist. Like we're going to talk about Christian Peterson in a sec. He's a very important guy, so he has a tag dedicated to him. Sometimes it will involve if it is associated with a particular body of collections, it'll have a tag. But these are all, again, different ways that you can organize your information on PubPub. And again, because this is open source and, developed for community editing, as long as, one of the, moderators can give you access to it and give you the, permissions to edit it, you can do that. And so, again, we can give our interns a lot of ownership over this. So, like I said, this is just what it looks like when you're in the editing bay, so it gives you a sense of basically how we update a lot of this information. Next slide, please. And for this section, I'm going to turn it over to Allison, since she is the curator of the Christian Peterson Art Collection.
Hi, thank you. So this section here, as Caitlin has kind of mentioned, there's a lot of digital infrastructure that we're looking with, a lot of back-end digital practices that we're employing across all of the platforms that we're working on. Another important thing to note, for example, with PubPub, as Caitlin was describing, there's a lot of different ways that we can make that data a lot more usable, a lot more accessible for people as they're searching on the internet. But we're also limited in certain ways by the platforms that we're using. Specifically for PubPub, the way you navigate it, we're limited in those ways. So we really try to think about usability when we're working across these different platforms. And so another section that we have on PubPub is the catalog raisonné for Christian Peterson. If any of you are familiar with Christian Peterson, if you've been to the Memorial Union, you'll see the Fountain of the Four Seasons, which recently just got restored, which we're very excited about. That's probably his most well-known on campus. He was the first artist in resident at any university in the United States. And he was also employed at Iowa State University from about 1933 through his retirement in 1955. So a 21-year career here at Iowa State. So the catalog raisonné aims to provide a comprehensive list of all of his known works of art. Here at University Museums, we really take ownership over the Christian Peterson collection. We worked closely with his widow as well as his daughter to make sure that we incorporated all the objects, all of the known objects that he had throughout his life. As some galleries and museums may tell you, sometimes artists don't record their stuff very well. And so we've worked a lot with special collections, as well as other primary sources, to kind of gather as much information as we can add to the understanding of these objects. So as you'll see on this next slide, we won't navigate to the raisonné, but feel free to please visit our PubPub. And so this is kind of the information that you'll find. You'll see the tags separated. They're tagged by type. So he did a lot of commissions for children. You'll see of children. You'll see that there at the top, by decade, by type, so portrait and bas-relief. So one of the acronyms that people might be familiar with is that your data should suck. It should be sustainable, usable, complete, and known. Sustainable, so working across different platforms, making sure that that platform is going to exist in 10 years. You don't want to invest a lot of time if it's not going to, as well as fundraising, staff time as well. People take for granted that this information is free and available online to many users, to global audiences. And so we do have donors as well as university investment in providing this information to knowledge creators, to scholars, to students, as well as general global audiences. You go to the next slide.
We also help publish, along with other university partners, the biographical dictionary. So this is really it documents faculty, staff, students, and alumni, or other public figures that had a significant impact at Iowa State University. And then we'll go to the next one. So for example, if you navigate through the biographical dictionary, this is some of the information that you find. This is just a snapshot of what you'll see at the top of the page, the different tags that you can see, an image of the person. It'll also provide different ways that you can cite this. This biographical dictionary has over 150 authors, so you'll be provided the citation information. So if you're a student writing about something, especially relevant to campus, you'll be able to provide the proper citation, which is super important. Another part of that acronym is known, make your information complete and known. So having the ability to share this information, which you'll see on the right-hand side of that slide. And then, yeah, just as far as usability, just making sure that, you know, we've got some quick tidbits at the top. And yeah, so, I mean, I will say, as curators, we use these platforms a lot. We do have the museum system, which is a program that we can really back-end data that we can go through and edit all this information, and then it inputs into our platforms. So we're pretty excited when people are actively using this. And talking about eMuseum and TMS, I'll hand it over to Caitlin.
Yep. So to really quickly go over eMuseum, this is basically our collections database that the public can access. So Allison already mentioned TMS, the museum system. That is our huge database that has basically all of our digitized information. That is only accessible to museum staff, but we filter that through to eMuseum. So this is what you can search if you want to learn about any of our collections. This is searchable by artist, title, location, and that means location on campus, object number, collection, object type, date, and medium. We have over 30,000 objects as part of this, so it is a big one. And we have even curated different collections for individual classes or themes of objects. So here, this is a classics course, and I have to stop now. Yes. So this is an example of like a curated list where it's all different objects that are relevant to this course. So that means we don't have to actually pull them and risk damaging them, but the professor and all of the students can access this in a very immediate way. So thank you.
Last but not least, we have Jane Mertens from Grinnell College. Jane Mertens is an assistant cataloger at Grinnell College Libraries. She has a master in information science with a focus in information organization. She has provided metadata support for the Haitian Arts Digital Crossroads project since 2024 and has worked for Grinnell College since 2020. She will be presenting on critical cataloging of Haitian art. Take it away.
Hello everyone, my name is Jane Mertens and I'm going to talk a little bit today about how we approached critical cataloging of Haitian art. So some background, we had a collection from the Waterloo Center for the Arts. It's around 1,400 pieces. Oddly enough, this is one of the largest collections of Haitian art outside of Haiti in the world, which is a bit unexpected because people don't necessarily associate Waterloo with Haiti, but this is where the work has been collected. So we have around 500 metal sculptures, 200 drapeaux, which are sequin voodoo flags, and then we also have 700 paintings. These were all digitized by another group of people, including Dr. Petrushka Moise, and then we needed to move into the place where we could make it publicly available. And so then I'm going to be talking specifically about how we got this work onto TMS and onto eMuseum. So critical cataloging is a facet of critical librarianship, and critical librarianship seeks to be transformative, empowering, and a direct challenge to power and privilege. So when I was told that this is the direction that we were going to be going, the directive I was given was beyond provenance. So how are we going to describe these things that are going to be beyond just who owned it last and where it came from in terms of who bought it? So we really need to think about searching, discovery, and description, and we need to think about how we can create metadata that will allow you to search for this collection, even if you aren't familiar with Haitian art and you don't necessarily know the terms used to describe Haitian art. But then also, once you find the collection, how can you use the terms to create a context for the arts? That way people can understand the terms that are used in Haiti to describe Haitian art. So it needs to be searchable on various levels of expertise. It needs to be discoverable for all users, and it needs to describe things in a way that provides the cultural context. So this is what you oftentimes have when you have a piece of art given to you. If you're really lucky, you're going to have the title. Hopefully you'll have the artist, you'll have the accession date, and you'll have who donated it. But this doesn't give us very much of the cultural context of this piece of art. So the first layer that we looked at was the artist's background. So we hired 2 undergraduate student researchers who were going to really focus on the wheres. So where were they born? Where did they live? Where did they die? Who were their peers, influences, mentors, and then also, is it cited anywhere? This is something that we can do because this is a fairly modern collection. So most of the pieces in this collection are from the 20th century, which means that we can actually find people who knew them and say, what is this? Who made this? Do you know anything about this artwork? And so we've been pretty successful with that. For example, this particular piece, we were able to find out that it was made by the son-in-law of Telemark Oban, who is a key leader in the Capesian art movement. And so we were able to make those connections and sort of start to build the webbing. So then the next thing that we want to do is make it discoverable and searchable, even if you don't have a very high level expertise. So this is where we look at the Getty thesaurus. So this is a thesaurus that is used to describe a lot of different art pieces all over the world, which means that we're able to insert the pieces in this collection into the overall conversation. These are the terms that people who are used to searching for art are going to be most familiar with. But then we wanted to add in a material culture thesaurus as well, and this was created by Dr. Petrushka Moise, and these were terms that are either specific to Haiti, so like kombit is specific to Haiti, and or else these are terms that people brought up in conferences when they were talking about these pieces. And so these ones are all in English. They were divided into 3 facets: daily life, performance, and then religion and spirituality. And so she based a lot of these on art history, and then she also pulled from the community to find more terms. Here's another example. So like, for example, in this is a voodoo flag, so a drapeau, and in this one, you want to be able to list who the Loa are, who are in this. So we have La Sirène, Agoué, and then also some more specific terms that have to do with this piece in particular, for example, the calabash rattle. And then we also have one term from daily life that has to do with travel, so that way it also fits into that conversation. So then we got to our 3rd level of description, and for this type of description, we first of all had to gather a lot of words. And so we met with a group of students, and we did a test run of something that we call the digital laku, where we opened it up, we looked at groups of objects, and we just tried to generate as many terms as we possibly could to describe it. So I would ask the students, how would you describe this for somebody who had never seen it? Then I would say, if you were trying to find it again, what word would you use to search for it? And then I said, and if you were trying to find this instead of this other one, what words would you use to differentiate them? And that's how we generated the list of terms that we were going to use. But then we were really fortunate to be able to work with Dr. Jean-Mozart Ferron, who's a professor at the University of Haiti. And he helped us to translate all of these terms into Creole. So that way we would have a bilingual website and interface. So that way we had a lot of the terms that people would have actually used to describe these pieces in the context that they were made. And so once we get there, we add in all of those various types of words from the Creole thesaurus. And so then we have a pretty long description of the piece. And we felt this was a much easier way to use to describe things and to really give the context that we needed to get. And so our next steps are we need to verify and update artists. So now that we've gone public with this, we're getting information from people who are saying, hey, that's not what they want to be called, or hey, we know that person and we have more information on them. And that's one of the benefits of a modern collection, is that people will correct you, which is good. We still have around 900 pieces that need cataloging. This can take a lot of time, but we are slowly working our way through. And then we also want to continue to add to these thesauri. And so we're pulling a digital laku, which is a digital community. We are working specifically with University of Haiti students who are in a museum studies class. They are taking groups of objects and they are talking about how to describe them, how they would describe them. They're asked to go out to people in Haiti, show the objects that they found, and ask them what they think about them, talking specifically with the communities that make these pieces as well. And so we are getting their terms, and so we have to digest those and then also
integrate them into the thesaurus hierarchies that we have already created. But yeah, those are our next steps. And with that, I'm did.
Thank you all so much.